This was an anticlimactic finish, brother, but we need to talk about what happened while the fight was still going down. So, at the time of the finish, Jan Blachowicz had outstruck Aleksandar Rakic in terms of significant strikes, 31 to 27. But on the flip side, Rakic, he had landed one of his four takedowns and controlled Blachowicz for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So, if this is anything like some of the other fights that were getting judged on this main card, that control time has to count for something because people were really hyping up control time on this card, man. So, what counted more to you, the destroyed, decimated left leg of an Aleksandar Rakic, who, for whatever reason, decided even after the Volkan Ozdemir fight where he got his leg picked apart, he just didn't want to check kicks, or Rakic saying, "I'm going to initiate my game plan. I'm going to put Blachowicz on the ground, and I'm going to basically emulate what Glover Teixeira did to him, except I'm not going to be able to get the submission." Which one was more impressive in your eyes?
Definitely the latter for me, Derek, because that's what I didn't expect Rakic to be so good at. I expected Blachowicz to be the better wrestler, to have the power, to go in there, be the bigger guy as he's controlling the fight. But it turns out Aleksandar Rakic had a different plan, man, going in there and actually going to implement the plan that we saw Glover do against Blachowicz and do it to pretty successful rate, man. I mean, it's one thing to be able to get a guy down, but hold him down for that control time that you're talking about. That to me is just a little bit more impressive. I mean, also to the point you're making as well, though, Derek, not checking kicks and just being cool with your left leg getting absolutely decimated by Rakic is always an interesting plan whenever somebody puts it to play. But I think the takedowns and the control time just was a little bit more impactful, through the fight. Because I agree with you. I think Aleksandar Rakic was winning the fight until he wasn't.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm kind of struggling with at this point because it's like he is kind of winning, kind of. But at the same time, you can kind of feel the momentum start to shift in favor of Blachowicz because at a certain point, man, when you have that lead left leg and you're refusing to switch stances, you're refusing to check, and it's just getting picked apart. I thought we were going to see Davy Grant versus Louis Smolka all over again because Davy Grant stopped Louis Smolka due to leg kicks, more or less. I mean, he got the TKO finish, but really it was the leg kick that initiated the process. So it kind of felt like an inevitability, a matter of time, that Blachowicz got the win. But either way, we're just kind of predicting. We're speculating at that point, man. So let me ask you this before we get into it more. Do you think that this fight deserves a rematch?
Yeah, I would think so. And you were talking about it before. Where does this fight necessarily determine or call for Blachowicz to get the rematch against Glover? I mean, one, we have to see if Glover wins. If Glover beats Yuri, then we can have that whole conversation. But I think this one needs to run it back, man. Very close fight. It wasn't a solidified. Rakic was losing, and then he tore it. Then he hurt himself. So there was some mix 'em up. There was some room for conversation, which I think that right there kind of makes us want to see that rematch a little bit more.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, but the hard part about it is that, like, that's the logical answer. That's if everything was just in the world, this is what would take place. But on the contrary, not everything is just in the world. And if Aleksandar Rakic is out for a prolonged amount of time because his ACL popped, you think that they're just going to have him, like, have Blachowicz wait around for it? Like, I don't think that's how it's going to work. I think that Rakic, unfortunately, kind of gets relegated into the back half of the top five, maybe even six now, even though he was number three, even though he lost on a non-contact injury. It's weird, brother, and this is kind of how the UFC goes. Look at what they did to Tony Ferguson when his knee blew up and he was supposed to fight for the championship. Next thing you know, look at where he is today. So in this fight, though, man, one more thing before we kind of, move away from this main event. Jan Blachowicz, brother, I thought his striking looked crispy. He was able to handle the kicks of Aleksandar Rakic very well, and that's something that I wasn't really sure he was going to be able to do. Was it surprising to you that he basically took one of Aleksandar Rakic's best weapons, which is the leg kick, and he effectively nullified it, man? He was checking those leg kicks like it was nobody's business. I thought that was going to be a big, big factor, because if Rakic hurt the lead leg of Blachowicz, I thought that's when it was going to be deep waters, bloody waters right there. But it was the contrary, man. It was the reverse. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, man. No, it was more surprising to me because I thought Blachowicz was going to be a lot more impacted by the shots of Rakic, man. Rakic, he comes in looking strong, looking powerful and mean. Blachowicz sits there, takes the shots, deals with him as he will. Looked a little bit better, a little bit more grizzled in there, which was nice for Blachowicz. Not what I was expecting at all. So shocked, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Not necessarily like shocked, like mind blown, like I can't see this coming ever, but a little bit more to my surprise. You know what I'm saying?
Would you say that this is another case of people undercounting, discounting, underrating, counting out Jan Blachowicz? Like I felt like this was one of those where I'm like, well, you can't really count out Blachowicz because he was just the champion, but at the same time, this Rakic dude is scary, bro. So, do you think that this is, I mean, basically people eating their crow on Jan Blachowicz because we didn't believe in him?
It seems like it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Especially with the fact of, yo, he has to kind of go back and rematch this one to prove it. You know, it just wasn't really a solidified win. Kind of feels like we're sleeping on Blachowicz, man, and not really giving him the credit he did deserve. Because especially on an injury and a non-contact injury where you didn't really cause it, a
yeah.
lot of people are thinking, oh, you know, it was time, you know, probably a past injury, whatever the case may be. Yeah, Blachowicz, he said it best. You know, at the end of the day, I'm the one that got my hand raised. My body lasted longer than his body. It's true, all of it.
And speaking of that, I will say that I didn't know if this was the right time to mention it, but Aleksandar Rakic did actually note, man, and I'll pull it up real fast just so that we can all be in the clear over here. So, look at this headline, brother. Aleksandar Rakic reveals UFC on ESPN 36, which is Fight Night 54. The injury originally occurred 3 weeks ago in camp. So, of course, this happens. Of course, you come into the fight with a pre-existing injury. But so basically, yeah, he's saying that his knee buckled. He wrote a whole Instagram post about it, all that good stuff, and he hopes that he gets a rematch. That's basically the summary of what's going on. But with that being said, it also goes to show it's like, well, did Jan cause it? I don't know. He kind of did, but kind of didn't. Either way, a win is a win is a win, and we need to just kind of wait and see what happens next for the Polish power, the legendary Polish power of Jan Blachowicz, who gets another TKO. Beautiful, beautiful.